Hey people, this is Mr. UV, aka Mr. Ultraviolet, and today I'm gonna do the longly awaited video of the tier list. The way I'm gonna break it down is that I'm gonna do it by roles. So we're gonna start off with tanks, and then we'll go into the support and damage dealers. So we'll do it like front, mid, back line, and let's just get into it. I'm not gonna really waste too much time. So I would say I recorded this video previously, but they end up releasing a new character that happened to be a new tank, which is for the smooth talkers. I don't have them, but as usual, we're gonna look at the stats at max, so you know what you're gonna get at max stats. Level 250. Uh, all base stats are the same for each role, except for this new character he just released. Even though he's a tank, his max base stats are different than typical tanks. You can look at Maverick. They're both tanks, but as you can see, their tank max stats, the native max stats are different. But I'm not going to waste too much time. We're going to get into the list, and it might be a little controversial, but let's get into it. And here we go. With number one on the list, this is all in my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. But I gotta say, it is Maverick. Oh, excuse me, not Maverick, but the Marshall. The Marshall is the best tank in the game and probably one of the best characters in the game, period. And we can get into his kit and explain why he's the best character for tanking. All right, so his grid alone damages mid and back line, which is two roles, support and damage is damage dealers and support. Damage dealers are typically mid, backline is your support, so he's hitting two roles at the same time. He damages mid and backline enemies for 240% of his attack. He inflicts taunt on those targets for 8 seconds, and he also gains 45% damage reduction. Alright, while the taunt is active. Now the way taunt is that whoever he hits, they are forced to hit him and only him for 8 seconds with normal attacks. They can have their special charged up, but during that 8-second duration that they are responding to the taunt, they won't be able to use it until that duration of taunt is over. That is a great ability. That's probably the best ability for a tank because it is actually doing their job, which is protecting the team from damage. And this allows him to protect the team for damage because he's forcing the enemy team to hit him and only him. That's exactly what you want. All right. And just FYI, the way that I am grading the characters is off of two things, which is basically how how much damage can they take and how long can they take. Those are the two roles that a tank is supposed to, check off. Um, and complete. So we're going to be grading them off those two things. How much damage can they take? How long can they take that damage? Or the duration, the amount and duration of damage they can take. All right. And this ability right here puts them at least at top 3 alone, just special by forcing the enemy to hit him and only him. Not only that, he's also gaining 45% damage reduction every time this goes off for 8 seconds, which is a lot of damage reduction. Damage reduction is better than defense because it cuts the damage before it even has to penetrate your defense to then hit your base health. So yes, damage reduction is always good, and the taunt is also great. All right, so let's get into his first passive. Every 5% of health loss, increase attack by 6 and percent and defense by 6%. This can stack up to 6 times. So he's gaining at the max 6 times. He's going to gain 36% defense and attack. That is phenomenal. This allows him to hit hard as a tank, as well as for him to take more damage as a tank. So he's going to be able to eat up even more damage. He's gaining damage reduction from his grit special, and he's also gaining 36% damage reduction. In game, that this right here allows him to hang around for a long time, and that's what we want. Checking off 2 boxes right there. All right, so let's get into his second passive. He gains 30% HP attack, 20% HP, and he gains 30% defense Plus, he's the only character that gains a fourth skill on his passive skill, his second passive skill, and that is he gains plus 500% grit. So this is why Marshall usually is one of the first characters in any match to special, and he typically specials more often than anybody on the field. It's because he's getting this extra 500% grit that's allowing him to, use his grit more often, which once again gives him 45% damage reduction and forces the enemy to hit him because he's taunting. This is a great, great, great skill or ability. His kit is looking very strong and is working very cohesively to allow him to be the best tank in the game. With those three skills alone, he's putting them at number one on the list compared to all of the other tanks. Checking off both boxes and he's doing it flawlessly. Alright, so let's get into his last passive and his last skill. And it is 10 seconds after the match starts. 10 seconds after the match starts. So once the match begins, 10 seconds has passed. This is going to kick in, walking tall. He removes all status afflictions and increases crit rate by 24% and crit bonus by 24% for 20 seconds. That's very long and that's it's great. In addition, restore 12% of lost HP every 5 seconds. This is a phenomenal passive. This passive kicks off 10 seconds after the match starts and with clear status affliction, so that's if he has any poison on him, any burn, anything like that, he's going to clear it right off of him. Just great, especially on horseback matches where you might have like one of the skills that might say as soon as the match start, hit him with the poison or anything like that. He's great against people like Pathfinder, Hellfire Kid, anybody that puts a poison, burn, bleed. He's clearing that off of himself. At the same time, he's also gaining 24% crit and crit damage, or what they call crit bonus. That is phenomenal. This once again allows him to hit hard. This is why the Marshal can also be a pseudo damage dealer as well next to a tank, and he also is kind of like a pseudo control character because he applies the taunt. So he's a great character. Not only that, if you know me, you know I love characters that has excuse all updates and all that stuff. But I love characters that have self heal. So he's gaining 12% health back every 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds he's going to gain 12% of his health back. That's not 12% over 5 seconds and then it's done. No, it's every 5 seconds he's going to gain 12%. So this is a massive heal. It's not that massive, but it's consistent. So it's allowing him to once again check one of the boxes off, stay in the game longer, which allows him to take more damage, and which allows him to take more damage for a longer period. This is why the Marshal is the best tank in the game, in my opinion. And to add even more onto that is his type or whatever, affiliate faction. He's a regulator or a joker. I call him White Joker. What is he? A regulator. So that means he's gonna take whatever suit that you have the most of. So that's how it works. He's a great character. He's one of my favorite characters. In my opinion, he is the best tank in the game. And let's get into number two. Now, this might be a little controversial, but based off the two things that I'm saying, a tank's role is supposed to complete is they're supposed to take damage, and we're grading off how much damage they can take and how long they can take that damage. So, well, this might surprise you. Now, actually, it's kind of hard for me to actually grade it, but you can pretty much switch it in and out. Well, the one on my list I was going to say is Barkeep. Now, you can say that it might be the perspective, the way his kit works. Now, I don't have this character unlocked to actually use him in battle to get a greater understanding of how he works in battle. But the way his kit looks, it looks very, very, very strong. But at the same time, I still think, I still think that Barkeep is number two. Yeah, You might be mad or saying, how can he even be number two? Probably sucks or anything like that. Well, I was going to his kit, right? So it's grit. He damages front line and mid line. So he's hitting your tanks and he's hitting your damage dealers for 232% of his attack, and decreasing the target's accuracy by 30% for 8 seconds. That is great. He is hitting them two rows of characters, and not only that, he's lowering their accuracy by 30% for 8 seconds. If they can't, they can't, they, if they can't land a hit, they can't hurt you. Understand that. That's checking off one of the boxes, checking off both of the boxes. Because if we're grading him on how much damage he can take and the duration of the damage he can take, he's not taking any damage because he's not getting hit. He's lowering the enemy's accuracy. They're not even landing the attack. So, checking off both boxes, that's a great ability. And you know, if you've gone against this guy, once he gets going, if he lands his grid on you about 2, 3 times during the match can go very downhill from there. Especially when we start looking at the rest of how his kid works cohesively. You're going to see they all build upon each other. This is why he's number two. Whenever this character invades an attack, he restores 250 grit. This can only be triggered once every 5 seconds. They had to put the once every 5 seconds because when you look at it, when you start looking at his kit, how it works, he's going to be dodging. He's going to be making them miss a lot. So that would have made him broken alone. Just this ability and this first one would have made him broken. And if you remember what the Marshall second passive was, he was gaining 500 grit, um, just total coming with his second passive. He's gaining half of that, 250 grit. But he's not just gaining it, one time. He's gaining it consecutively every time he makes. Well, it's not consecutively like back to back, but it is. But it's within a 5 second duration. But he's still being able to gain it back to back. So he's able to gain 250 of that every time he dodges. Every time he dodges, he's going to gain half of what the Marshals gets just total. That's phenomenal. And also, that's the same amount that Strings provides every time he uses his special. When Strings uses his grit, he gives you 250 grit back to your whole team. He's gaining 250 for himself. It might be for only for himself, but how his special works is that he's lowering the accuracy. But you have to remember the characters that he are hitting with his special is the damage dealers. Midline is your damage dealers. So they might fire off their damage dealing special. But if the accuracy is continuously being lowered, they have a chance to miss that, which is protecting not only him but the rest of the team. Because when those specials go off, it doesn't just hit the tank. It goes to whatever designated person or enemy that they're supposed to hit. Like here's his front and mid. Everybody's grit is different. They're gonna hit a specific target. But if they miss that damage, that's it. I mean, your team's gonna be able to survive a whole nother wave. You have to wait for them to stack up their special again. And during that time, he's doing what he does. He's gaining, he's dodging more, and he's making you miss. Alright, so let's get into a second pass. He gains 30% attack and he gains 12% dodge. That works with his first passive. When he gains every time he invades, he's going to get the grit back. So he's gaining 12% native dodge at max, and he's gaining 30% defense. He doesn't gain the health, he doesn't gain the health, but he does gain the dodge. So on hand, I wouldn't say it kind of does balance off because when you look at it, when we get into his last passive, you'll kind of see how it will work. So let's get into his last passive. His last passive, every 9 seconds, he increases his dodge rate by 30% and restores health equal to 30% of his attack over 5 seconds. So every 9 seconds, he's going to self-heal. Once again, this allows you to clear a spot on your team where you don't have to bring in a healer or anything like that. He's healing himself. So every 9 seconds, he's going to heal for 30% of his attack. As well, he's going to increase his dodge rate by 30%. He's already gaining the 12 uh, native dodge. And then that's 30%. All right, you're already at 42. And let's say you put him on a sign bonus in your town where he gains maybe another 15% dodge. You see what I'm saying? Now he's stacking. He's already at 50 to 60%. Not to mention he's lowering their accuracy by 30% every 8 seconds. This is how this character works. He's protecting himself by dodging and making the enemies miss by lowering their accuracy, as well as he's protecting the team by lowering the enemy's accuracy, which in hand allows him and the team to survive longer. And you gotta remember, zero damage is better than any amount of damage. So he's checking off that box. He doesn't have to worry about how much damage he can, tank, because he's not taking any damage. No damage is always better than any amount of damage. This is why he's number two. Not only is he protecting the team from taking zero damage, he's also, you know, gaining special himself, which on his stacks to protect the team from taking any damage. And at the same time, he also has self heal. We saw looking at the other characters compared to his kit, he is more superior. He is more superior. So this is why he's number two. And let's get into number three on my list. This was a little different, like I said, before the new character came out. But now that we have the new character, Prospector, he is number three on the list. And some people might debate that he can be number two. But when we get into his kit, some things that he may leave out. Yes, he will be able to tank more damage considerably compared to Barkeep. He will be able to tank more damage. But because Barkeep is taking no damage, he's taking no damage, not tanking, he's taking no damage. No damage is always better than the amount of damage that a tank can block or take. Alright, so let's get into it. Now, like I said, his stats are a little different. He's gaining more attack than most of the tanks, and he also has less HP. I think he also has less defense as well. We can check that real quick. All right, so that's 92 years born. Let's go. And yeah, so he has less defense, he has less health, but he has more attack. All right, so let's get into it. You'll see how that works because this guy does massive damage. All right, so his grip, man, it's a train coming. Bear with me, guys. He damages the front line enemies for 300% of his attack, and the additional okay, excuse me. He damaged the front line for 300% of his attack and an um additional damage equals to 10% of the target's max HP, up to 500% attack. Because if you're going against characters that have massive amount of attack, then yes, his attack will even, massive amount of HP, his attack can go through the roof, so they had to cap it out at 500%. And while this is increasing attack by attack by 5%. So basically, this guy's gaining massive attack. He's going to be able to hit really, really hard. And plus, with his base attack being even higher, it allows him to hit even hard too, the way that it scales. Alright, so let's get to his first passive. Alright, so upon entering battle, activate a rock shield. As soon as the battle starts, he's going to activate a shield over itself that absorbs damage. This allows him to tank a lot. Alright, so he absorbs damage equal to 60% of his max HP for 20 seconds. Now, the way that this shield works different compared to the preacher is that the preacher's shield uh, uh, the amount of shield that he applies is based off the amount of attack that he has. But the Prospector, his shield is based off the amount of base health he has, which is phenomenal because you have more health than you have attack. And not only that his shield has, he's going to have more shield HP, but he's also going to have that shield's going to last twice as long. I think it's even 3 times as long. Because I think the preacher shield probably lasts about probably a maximum of 12. So his is lasting 20 seconds. That's almost double, but it could be 8, so it could be almost around triple. So once again, this guy's able to take a lot of damage, and he's also able to do a lot of damage. Now let's keep it going. But remember, we're not grading. His job is to be able to take damage and the duration that he can take damage. It's not about how much damage you can do. But that is also an extra cherry on top if you can do massive damage as a tank. So let's get into it. His second passive, he gains crit bonus. So he's one of the first guys that gains crit bonus. He gains crit bonus plus 40%. That's actually pretty big. He also gains damage reduction plus 15%. So he's getting a 15% of damage reduction. That is great, especially when he's already throwing a shield above himself. So that shield's going to be able to take a lot of damage. And he also increases his health value by 30%. So this is his base native health value right here. He's going to gain an extra 30% of what this is right here. Boom, he's going to gain that. So this is how the developers decided to balance out his health, even though he has less health than the other tanks. This is how they balanced it out. Is that with the second passive, he's going to gain 30% of his base health. On top of that, he also gains a shield, which is 60% of his max health for 20 seconds soon as the match starts. So he's actually gaining around 30, probably about what is it, about 80% more health on top of his so he's gaining his base health, then 80% of his base health. So that probably it most likely, I don't have to calculate it. I haven't calculated the amount, but it's probably going to be, for him to be balanced, it's probably going to be roughly around the same amount of health that all the other tanks have, which kind of makes him seem a little OP when you see that he already has a lot more attack than the other tanks, and that he's gaining this massive amount of attack based off every time he uses his grit. But remember, it's gated behind the extra attack. It's gated behind his special, so he has to get the special off to get that extra attack. But the health that he gains and the damage reduction that he gains is gated behind his passive. So that's always going to kick off. It's guaranteed. It's always there. All right. So let's get into his last passive. When the rock shield is destroyed, so that first shield that he spawns in with, when it is destroyed, attack is increased once again by 15%, and he gains crit rate by 15% for 30 seconds. Now, this is probably the biggest duration I've seen in the game. Never seen a duration higher than about 20%, 20 seconds. He's getting 30 seconds, so that's 1/3 of the match. So as soon as the shield is destroyed, which might take about 30 seconds into the game, another 30 seconds, he's going to have increased attack and crit on top of the attack that he's gaining and the crit that he's gaining from his grit and from his passive. So this guy's going to be able to hit very, very hard. And remember, his attack is higher than most tanks in the game. He can probably be a pseudo damage dealer. I'm going to say probably he is a pseudo damage dealer, meaning that he can do both roles, damage dealer and a tank. Now, the way that he tanks is he keeps himself alive. He doesn't know. This is the reason why I had Barkeep high. Yes, he does increase his damage. He does have damage reduction. He does have damage reduction on the second passive. He does increases his max health with his second passive. And also he gains a shield as soon as he comes in the match, which is a percentage of his max health. Yes, so he is gaining a little bit of HP, you know, at the beginning of the match, one time, and he is gaining shield that keeps those a little cushion over top of his health for until it's destroyed. It's based off his max health, so he is gaining pretty much a little bit of armor, but doesn't have any heals. Doesn't have any heals, and the shield only applies once. It only applies at the beginning of the match, so that is a little bit for uh sustain, a little bit less sustained than Barkeep has, because every 9 seconds he's gaining heal. He's healing every 9 seconds. And the way that his grid is that he dodges the attack. He doesn't take it. So that it makes him a little better and sustain. So duration and amount. But he does hit hard and he does tank damage. So he will be able to tank a lot of damage. But remember, when you use grits, it hits specific targets. So the way tanks work in this game is that they'll take all the normal damages that comes. They're on the front line, so they'll take all the normal damage. Then once they fall, then all the normal downs will hit midline. Once the midline fall, then it will hit the back line. That's how it works. So tanks, because on the front line, they do take all the normal damage that comes to the team. They will take that. But when specials go off, they hit specific targets. They do not just always hit um the tank. They hit whoever they're targeting, like his. He hit front line. So Yes, he'll be able to last longer. He'll be able to take a lot of normal damage. But when it comes to the grit damage or specials, when they fire off, the enemy, your teammates, they're going to take that full blown attack. He also doesn't gain any type of defense up or anything like that. He does gain the damage reduction though. He does gain the damage reduction of 15%, but he doesn't gain any consecutive defense, which is not too bad. It's not too bad. 15% is not bad. It's pretty good. And with all that health and that shield, he's going to be able to survive early in the game. But he's not getting any heals, and he doesn't have any way to protect the team when they use grits compared to a Barkeep who's lowering their accuracy. That's how he's protecting the team because he's lowering the accuracy of the enemies, which is making the enemy miss him and the team. That's why, and he has self heals. So those two things alone and he has a special regeneration based off every time he dodges, he'll be able to use a special more. So those are three things that he has over the Prospector. And the number one, the Marshal, he has defense, damage reduction. He also has self heals. He also taunts and forces the enemy to, even if they have a special, they can't use it for 8 seconds. See, so he's actually, even though he's when that special goes off, it's still going to hit the rest of your teammates, but he's delaying that by 8 seconds every time he uses his special because of the time. So that's three things again that he has over the perspective. Now, if you remember what I said, we're grading off duration and the amount of damage that they can protect the team from. Those are the two things that we're grading these tanks off of. He does gain a lot of health, and he will be able to stay in the match for a long time to protect the team from normal attacks. But if you're going up against an enemy team that when they use their specials, they hit hard, it might decimate your damage dealers or whoever else that they're targeting. So compared to the other two, this is why he's number three. He does do phenomenal amount of damage, and he does have a lot of sustain. But compared to the other two, he it's not there. Consecutively how his or cohesively how his kit works to protect the team, because that's his role, to protect the team not only from normal attacks but from all damage. So that's why he's number three, and that's not bad. He's really great. And think about it, the smooth talkers, the diamonds, they needed a new tank because, spoiler alert, Maverick wasn't that good. All right, so let's get into number four. Let's get into number four. Kind of probably took a little bit too much time on him, but because he was a new character and a lot of people probably haven't used him or even went up against him, I wanted to explain his pros and his cons, so you'll know who you should be, um, putting resources in. All right, or invested in, or if he's even worth putting on the team. He is, especially if you was to put him on the team with another tank. And that goes the same for Barkeep, because Barkeep and all three of these guys are pseudo tanks. So they can be tanks and fill other roles as well. So, if you put him on the team with someone like even Barkeep, which wouldn't be, yeah, actually it would be good because he can take the damage, and Barkeep can, make a miss, which allows the team to live. Or if you want to stack them up with a real tank like Marshall, boom, you got two tanks that's hit very, very hard, and they're both going to last a long time. So the normal attacks aren't going to even hit your damage dealers, and because the Marshall's hitting them with the taunt, they're not going to get hit with too many specials either. All right. And at the same time, the Marshal and the Prospector are both going to hit hard. So they're like pretty much damage dealers themselves. And then you got three other damage dealers or two, or depending on how you want to set up your team, they're doing crazy damage. And that's what they're supposed to do. Hey, that's a mean team right there. So let's get into number four, though. All right. So number four, in my opinion. Now, remember what we're grading these guys on. We're grading them on the duration of damage they can take and the amount they can take. With that being said, we got to say that it is desperate measures. It's desperate measures. Let's get into his kit and explain why it's desperate measures. All right, his grit, he damages the front line enemies for 243% of his attack and increases damage reduction by 20% for 10 seconds. All right, that's phenomenal. But remember that the damage reduction that he is gaining is gated behind him using his special. He will only get that damage reduction of 20% for 10 seconds if he uses his special. Now the damage The 243% damage doesn't have to land for him to gain the damage reduction. He just has to use it. But if you're going up against characters like Sister Mercy that can add Dizzy, or someone like the Marshal who stops you from even using it, he's not going to be able to gain that damage reduction because he's not able to use his grit or special, right? So let's get into his first passive. The first time that this enemy health drops below 60%, so the first time it drops about halfway, he heals an equal of 30% of his attack will be restored every second for 20 seconds. Now this is different. If you remember, it says every second. If you look at it, it says every second, every second. So he's gaining 300% of his, he's gaining 30% of his attack every second for 20 seconds. So he's going to gain 600% of his attack through the duration of 20 seconds. That's a massive heal that can drop him from halfway and maybe fill his health all the way back up, which is kind of, a little pushing and exaggerated because he's going to be taking damage throughout that duration of 20 seconds. 20 seconds is kind of a long time for a heal to kick off. So he's going to be taking damage while he's healing, but depending on how it lines up, if he can fire off that grit and get that damage reduction, it can allow him to get, get that health back to full, close to full before he takes too much damage. All right. So that is a massive heal, but he only can use it one time. So this does check off a box for amount of damage he can take and duration because it's allowing him to survive longer when he's getting a massive heal. Pretty much it kicks off guaranteed once he hits at 60%. But remember, he is taking damage while he's gaining that heal. So even though it might fire off, he might die before he gets a chance to get that full 600% of health back. All right, so keep that in mind. All right, let's get into the second passive. He gains 30% attack, he gains 20% defense, and 30% HP, which is standard. That's pretty good, standard stats. All right, and his last passive, whenever this hero was attacked, he reflects 15% of his damage taken back at the attackers. Now, this kind of allows him to be a pseudo damage dealer in terms of dot damage. Damage over time, he will be because he's constantly going to be taking damage, whether it's specials or normal attacks. He's going to be taking normal attacks 100% throughout the whole match. 15% of those, 15% of the damage that he receives from the normal attacks, he will be firing back. So he's going to be damaging the whole team because everybody's going to be hitting him with normal attacks because he's on the front line. He's going to be damaging the whole team throughout the whole match by reflecting the 15% of the damage he receives back at him. It sounds good, but considering that 15% really isn't that much. I mean, when you start looking at, if they hit you with a million damage, you're only gonna probably throw back about 150 thousand, 150,000 of that damage back. That's really not a lot, but it does chip away at their health. So it's pretty good, but I wish he was able to get some damage reduction or extra damage reduction that's not gated behind a special, or maybe some defense or even some self heals that's not, the duration is kind of long in this. But he is a balanced character, in my opinion, but a little underwhelming compared to the other three that we covered before him. All right, so this is why he stands where he's at. Because even though he gets the massive heal, it does have self heal. It is guaranteed to go off, but because the duration is 20 seconds, he can't, and he will be taking damage throughout that 20 seconds. He can't die before he gets the full 600% of his attack healed back to him. So that is like that's more of a not a thumbs down or thumbs up. It's like a mid thumb, and his damage reduction that he does gain the 20% through a duration of 10 seconds is good, but it is gated behind special. If you can't get the special off, he won't get the damage reduction. But granted, even if he does miss, he gets hit by Barkeep and he misses the damage, he still gets the damage reduction. But he's, like I said, at the same time, he still has to get the special off. So that's like a mid thumbs again. And this last pass of yes, he is able to do dot damage, reflect that damage back 50% of the damage he takes back at the enemy. The amount of damage that he's reflecting isn't too much, but I understand why it's not too high, because if it's too high, then he's constantly getting hit with normal damage. damage you will be able to apply will be kind of high. So, but it's not that high. And the reason why I say this is more so not even a mid thumbs, more towards a thumbs down, is because he's taking damage without gaining anything. So yes, he's also able to throw that damage back, but he has to take the damage before he can throw the damage back. So he's taking damage before he can reflect the damage. That's not so good for a tank whose job is to take a lot of damage and protect the team for damage. He's just taking damage, which is going to happen regardless. Only thing benefit he's getting out of is that he's throwing 15% back. You got to start looking at it like if he's these are normal attacks, they should reflect it back. So if they're hitting for 1,000, he's only doing like 150. See what I'm saying? 150 damage is nothing. It's nothing, especially when the base stats is like what 400,000. That's no damage. Yes, it is throughout the whole match. This will go off 100% of the times throughout the whole match as long as he is alive. So throughout the whole duration, whole 90 seconds, minute and a half that the match is lasting, he will be shooting 50% of that damage back. But I mean, he's a tank. He usually is not going to last the whole match unless you're pretty much punching down, meaning that you're more stronger than the enemy that you're facing. So this is why he's number 4. And let's get into number 5 because the video's already kind of long. So let's get into it. But these videos are going to be kind of long anyways because I'm covering the whole kit and explaining a little bit of tips and the pros and cons per character. But let's get into it. And it is the Chief. It is the Chief. You will probably think he'll be higher up on this list because of the immortality or invincibility skill that he has. But remember, we're grading them off of how much damage they can take and the duration that they can take that damage. Alright, that is the role of a tank. The role is not to take damage. Or, I mean, excuse me, not take damage, but do damage. They're not damage dealers, they're tanks. Supposed to tank damage and protect the team. So let's get into his kit and I'll explain a little further on why I said that statement. Alright, so his grit, his special, he damages all enemies. He's the only tank that does that. He damages all enemies for 169% of his attack. In addition, he restores health equal to 30% of the damage dealt over 3 seconds. So that sounds good on paper that he's able to hit everybody for 169% of his attack, and he does heal for 30% of the damage dealt. But remember, dealt, dealt, dealt. That is a very important word, dealt. And all right, he does receive 30% of the damage dealt over 3 seconds. The 3 seconds is a good part because it's pretty much instant. As soon as he does it, he's healing. As soon as he does the damage, he's healing. 3 seconds is nothing. It's a snap. So that is good. But remember that keyword dealt. I just explained it now. So dealt means if he hits them, he has no he if he uses special, he has to land damage to heal. So if he's going up against, say that you have Chief on your team, you're going up against a Barkeep. If Barkeep uses his special and he lowers your accuracy, and then you fire off your special and you miss, you dealt how much damage? 0. So how much health are you going to heal back? 0. See, this is, or if you go up against someone with like a that has like damage reduction, or if those a shield that has damage reduction, like Preacher or anything like that. So you're not gonna do your full 169% damage. That's gonna be cut just off bucks. That's gonna get cut off top. So if that's getting cut, that means that 30% of health that you're healing is gonna get cut as well. Not only that, the heal is gated behind him using his special. Right? To me, that's a thumbs down all around. It doesn't check off any boxes for a tank. It sounds like it does. It sounds like it's checking off the box of duration and both boxes actually of duration and amount of damage because, well, more so duration because it's allowing him to self heal. But the heal is gated behind him using his special. If he can't get the special off at all, he's not healing. If he misses his damage or he doesn't deal, a substantial amount of damage, the heal's worthless. So let's get into a second. His first passive. As this hero health decreases, their attack increases up to additional 60%. Yes, this does go hand in hand with his special. So as he doesn't, but remember this, it doesn't tell you how much damage that he has to take, how much health he has to lose for him to hit 60%. But we know that it's going to cap out at 60%. So he does gain 60% attack. So That works hand in hand with his special. So if he gains 60% attack, that's allowing him to do more damage, but then hand allows him to heal more health. But remember, he's not healing if you can't get the special off or if the special doesn't land. So that's a lot of what ifs for him just to do something that he's supposed to be able to do already. Some shape, form, or fashion. Whether it's increased defense, damage reduction, or heal. Alright, he's getting the heal, but it's gated behind him. First, using the special and landing the special. He has to use it and he has to land it. Unlike how Desperate Measures was that he gained the damage reduction even if he missed the attack. He just had to fire it off. As long as he used the special, he'll still gain the damage reduction even if he misses the attack. His isn't like that because it's based off how much damage he deals. Alright? But like, if you do build this character for high, massive damage, he can heal a lot and hand do massive damage. But remember, that's not what a tank's supposed to do. But compared to the Prospector, yes, he does massive damage as well. He is a tank. He was high. That's because he gained the shield, he had damage reduction, he also had an increase of his max base health, and he did the damage. So he was able to protect his team longer because he was gaining damage reduction. And because he gained a shield at the beginning, and because he gained the increase of his base health, which boosts up his sustain a little bit. Compared to this guy only getting a heal, but the heal's gated behind him, using and landing his special. His second passive, he gains 30% attack, 20% HP, and 30% defense. That's standard for a tank, same as Desperate Measures. That's the base ones you want to pretty much look for a basic tank. But let's get into the ability that everybody thinks is OP, but really isn't. Alright? The invincibility skill. The first time this hero will fall, so the first time that he would be dropped down to 0 HP, his health is then reduced to 1. So instead of dropping down to 0, it would just stop at 1. And at that point, he will become immune to all damage. That means burn, bleed, uh, um, just base damage in itself. Any damage. He will not take any of it for 8 seconds, which really isn't that long. But 8 seconds, he will be immortal. He won't take any damage. And it's only can be triggered once. Now, this sounds like a good ability, but remember, after that 8 seconds, he's dead. Anything. You could be a level 1, no stats, no gear, shoot a normal attack. That's going to do 1 damage. It's going to do over 1 damage. You could be max level, you got a max level chief, but if you get hit with by a level 1 character, the worst character in the game, even the weakest attack, which is a normal attack, it will kill you. Granted, they shouldn't be alive that long, but if they are, and they hit him, he will die instantly. Another thing is, he has a counter for this, and it is characters like anyone that has sustained damage. So that's people like Darling Dove, anybody that applies bleed, um, burning, poison. Those effects is going to carry over for a duration of 10, 8 seconds. So if his immortality, if he gets hit with that attack, that bleed, yes, he'll be bleeding, but he won't take the damage because he's immortal. But if that duration lasts longer, if it lasts longer than the 8 seconds, or the time lines up that his immortality cuts off before the bleed does, then he would just fall. That's why sometimes you see that he'll be immortal, and then before he actually gets hit, he just collapses. It's because he already had something, you know, on him prior to him being, immortal. All right, it sounds good, but once again, to me, he's one step from the last tank in the game because he doesn't have any defense. He doesn't add any defense. He doesn't add any damage reduction. He has a heal. It's all gated behind him using and landing his special. And yes, he can be immortal for 8 seconds, but this only can kick off one time as it should. But I mean, that 8 seconds of him being alive, it's not like it's helping the team survive longer, which is his role. He's not able to take damage that the team will take because he has no way to actually do that. Yes, he'll be able to take normal damage. He'll be immune to normal damage. He'll protect the team from that normal damage, the normal pew pews. But I mean, really, they can pretty much take that themselves. And hey, That 8 seconds, it'll blow by faster than you think, especially if you're going up against content that's harder than or higher level than your team. You'll be decimated by this guy. He can't do massive damage, but because all his, benefits are gated behind him landing his special, it's pretty much his whole kit. It's gated behind him landing his special. I gotta say, this is why he's number 4 on the list. Oh no, actually he's number 5, I think. I think we're on 5. Yeah, he's number 5. We have 6 tanks now. So he's number 5 out of 6. Just one from the last. And if you can count, you've been keeping up. You already know the last tank in the game is Maverick. This is why I think that they gave us another tank for the smooth targets, because even though this is the first 5-star everyone receives in the game, he's not that good. Alright. He's more of a knowing character than a useful character. Alright, let's get into it. He damaged the enemy with the lowest HP for 140% of his attack and inflicts burn. Alright, so he'll burn and he'll damage the enemy target that has burned for an additional 30% of his attack every second for 5 seconds. That's pretty good. Uh, you know, and in addition, he'll increase his defense by 30%, which is pretty good for 10 seconds. But remember, once again, just like the Chief, just like Desperate Measures, yes, he's gaining defense. Like Desperate Measures was gaining damage reduction, the Chief was gaining, heals. But it's gated behind the special. He's not gaining what he needs to take, what he needs to, live longer or take more damage. Just, natively or passively. It's all gated behind him using the special. If he doesn't use the special, he's not going to be able to get this extra defense. But different than the Chief, if he uses his special and miss, he'll still gain 30% defense up for 10 seconds. All right. And his special does work a little different because it is an attack all, but it doesn't attack everyone. It can attack anyone, I should say. It'll attack whoever has the lowest HP. So it's more of a sniper. It's more of a finisher. So if it's your tank that's about to die, has the lowest amount of health, he'll hit him. If it's your support unit, he'll hit him. So it depends on how much HP that the enemy has. That's his target. All right, let's get into his most useful skill and the only skill on his kit that makes him even useful. Alright, the first time that this hero's health drops below 50%, so the first time he drops under half, he inflicts lockdown on all enemies for 7 seconds. This ability can only be used once, thank God. Lockdown, the way it works is that when you get hit with lockdown, you cannot use normal attacks or specials. You're just standing there in a daze, just taking damage. That's all it is. So for 7 seconds, your whole team will just take damage. They'll just be sitting there like they're broken or the game's froze. That sucks. This is the only thing that makes this character useful. And he only can use it once, and he only can use it at 50%. Now, yes, I said this is his most useful skill, but those are the pros. The cons is yes, it kicks off at 50%. Now, if you hit him with enough burst damage and you drop him down under 50%, um, pretty much say that you drop him to 60, and then your whole team crits. Or they just both all like do massive damage at one time with the specials. They can kill him. The lockdown will go off, but he'll be gone. The lockdown will still be in effect, but he'll just be, decimated, erased. So look at it how you may. It is a good skill. I wish he had something else with his kit, made him more useful. But this is all we have. Pretty much this is the only thing he has on this kit. It's gated behind him. First have to take damage to drop under half. Not half like what was the guy? Desperate Measures. His was at 60%. So that's a little above half. Maverick has to drop under half before he can even kick this off. But as a tank, most likely he would take more damage and should take more damage than the rest of your team. So it's always guaranteed to go off. It's guaranteed that 7 seconds out the match, you're going to stop the whole enemy team from doing anything. It does sound good. But if you lose your tank, that means you're going to be taking grits and normal damages after that. So that's a lot of damage the rest of your team is going to be taking, especially if you haven't killed anyone off the enemy team. So look at it as you may. And his stats are he gains 30% attack, 20% defense, and 30% health. If you've been paying attention this whole time, his second passive stats are different. He does gain a 30% attack like everyone else that had base stats at 30% attack. but he gains 20% defense and instead of 30, and he gains 30% attack, HP instead of defense. So they flipped his defense and his HP stat around compared to all of the standard tanks. And that's probably mainly because of his grit. He's going to gain the 30% every time he uses his special. So that could took his defense up to about 60% every time he grits, which is some natural amount of defense that he'll gain. But really, I mean, if you say so, I mean, he's still gonna take damage. He doesn't have any other way to protect himself other than him using his special and his lockdown, which pretty much kicks off when he's about to die. But it is what it is. But he does have this, which I would say is a mid. It's a cross. It's not thumbs down, thumbs up. Every time the hero takes damage, he decreases the attacker's attack by 10% for 5 seconds. The duration isn't that long, and I understand why, because you're going to be getting hit. He's going to be getting hit by normal attacks consecutively and consistently throughout the whole match. So you can't be stacking. You don't want to stack it too high, pretty much, because he's going to be taking damage the whole match until he dies. So you don't want to just have a permanent attack debuff on the enemy team. That could be a little broken. So it is for 5 seconds. It has a 5 seconds cooldown. So he'll lower everyone that hits him, which should be the whole team. They have the whole attack lowered for 5 seconds. Boom. Do that 5 seconds. Calculates. Kicks back on. Alright. So I mean, this could work a little decent for him taking more damage to checking off one box because he's lowering their attack that they're able to do to him and the whole team. But 10%, like I said, the 15%, the desperate measures for shooting back was insignificant and minuscule. So this is 5% less than that. This is 10%. So look at it how you may, but it does work as a debuff. I mean, his kit at the beginning of the game when they give you this guy, yes, he does seem like he could be a very good character. But as you start getting deeper into the content and start facing harder enemies or harder teams in PvP, 1v1, 3v3s, 2v2s, you'll realize that Maverick really isn't a great tank. Seeing that the route that the developers went by giving us a second tank, which is kind of weird, but they gave us a second tank in the same faction, lets you know that they knew that he was competing um, uh, uh, not as well as the other teams or factions were. So they gave us, some two for the tank role in his group. Um, I was using the smooth talkers at the beginning of the game with a Pathfinder, a half and half, and I had to use desperate measures as my tank until I got the Marshal. So, and then once I got the Marshal, I didn't even use desperate measures or the Maverick. So that right there should be a testament to their usefulness, and that's why they're so low. And pretty much that's the list. You see, this guy's pretty much useless, other than this one skill of locking the enemy down for 7 seconds. Once he hits half, so right before he dies, he'll stop the team from doing anything. This is useful because you could be at the cusp of about to complete the whole, match. But as soon as you drop this guy down to 50%, your team's just sitting there. The enemy team, if they have enough people alive or enough damage dealers and doing enough damage, they can decimate your whole team. Like you're just standing there, not gaining health, defense, or anything like that, or your tank protecting you, or anything like that. You can get wiped out. And I've went through plenty of matches and campaign like this and lost because he was the first person to drop to 50%, and I just got decimated. But that's the list. I don't want to take any too much time longer. We're already at an hour, but these videos are going to be kind of long because I'm covering each character's kit, explaining the pros and the cons, and then listing them. So I'll be looking forward to the next list. That's my wife, but yeah, we're gonna be looking forward to the next list. I'll probably be doing damage dealers, midline. They'll probably because there's a lot more. This is only 6 characters compared to I think it's probably could be probably about 20, 30 damage dealers in the game. Not sure exactly, but considering this video took an hour, I'll probably break that one down into 2 parts, and then we'll end with support, your backline, and If that needs to be, which it probably will be broken down in 2 parts as well, I'll do it. It'll be a total of 5 videos, and that's it. Like, subscribe, all the other good stuff. Thanks for being here with me.